Hello, and welcome to the Cultivating Confidence podcast. I am your host, Dr. Nicole Grams. I am a life coach who specializes in anxiety, health, and human design. And I also happen to be a functional medicine pharmacist. This podcast is a compilation of conversations that I've had with clients and colleagues. So listen in as we explore the mind, body, and soul's confidence in its many forms. Welcome, everyone. Okay, as usual, I want to start with a little grounding exercise. So if it feels comfortable to you, close your eyes, put your feet on the ground, or just sink into your chair, how if you've got your legs crossed, however feels good to you. Take a deep breath and let it go. And as you sit here, I want you to imagine that there's a white light that's shining right on the top of your head, and there's energy entering your body. And you can feel it kind of trickling down your head, down your neck, down your shoulders, your back, your chest, your hips, your legs, and out the bottoms of your feet. And just allow this energy to fill your body up. Notice if it sends any tingles anywhere in your body. And just flush out anything that doesn't need to be there and welcome in things that will be helpful for you. And one more deep breath in. And let it go. When you're ready, open your eyes back up and rejoin the room. All right, so as usual, I have focus mode on, so I don't think you guys can see each other, but I can see you. So leave your cameras on so I can connect with you a little bit better. Today, it was, I can't remember exactly what was submitted. Somebody submitted a little blip, I'm guessing, so I didn't call them out immediately on here. No, just kidding. It may have been, it may not have been, but that's the story I made, and I kind of chuckled about it, and I'm totally fine with it. But it was sort of like how to make, I don't know if how I interpreted it was how to make things stick more, like how to make the changes that you want to make and beliefs that you want to change. Like, how do you make that stick? How do you make this work stick? And it really comes down to thoughts repeated over and over and over and over again. At least in my experience, that's what has happened for me. So, what are beliefs, first of all? In my experience, they are literally just thoughts that you keep on thinking. And a lot of them are subconscious beliefs that are thoughts you were told to think as children or as teenagers or as adults. And, something that kind of blew my mind as I started doing this work in coaching is you're allowed to believe literally anything you want to believe. And when you start looking at some of the beliefs that you have, it might kind of blow your mind that this is what I still believe. Really? Oh, okay. And a lot of it for me came down to self-worth. And, am I worthy of doing anything that I want to do? Really? Like, I know that, like, intellectually, I know that, but like emotionally, this ain't it. Right. And we have intellectual beliefs. We can intellectualize our emotions, and we all know that. All of us here are good at that. Well, oh, I'm doing this thing again. But like sinking into the emotional belief that you have and letting your amygdala kind of calm down and let go of the trigger that used to mean danger or, some sort of alert or, something is happening here that you need to pay attention to. So you're not excluded from your tribe forever and you're left out in the cold alone and hungry. Right. But yeah, beliefs, coming back, beliefs are just something that you have thought so often that you don't even realize you're thinking it. And a lot of us have these core beliefs that we have never once questioned or never once ever thought that it's just a belief. For example, one of the things that I used to believe about myself, and this was a conscious belief, but a belief nonetheless that took a lot for me to let go of, was that, I went to pharmacy school. I spent all this time, all this money, all this effort on pharmacy school. And now I don't want to be a pharmacist anymore, at least not in that capacity. Ooh, yikes. But I spent all this time, I spent all this money, I put all this effort into this one thing to make this one thing happen, and I got it, and then I'm not happy with it. Ooh, it was the process of letting go of the belief that I had to keep doing what I thought I wanted in the past. I had this belief that because I had invested so much of my life in this, that I had to use it. And then I started thinking about, there are a lot of people that don't actually use the degrees that they get. I got a hand raised there. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't use the degrees that they went to school for, that they thought, this is what I want to do with my life. There's so many examples of that. So what makes me different? What makes me different in the capacity that I have to do exactly what my degree tells me that I can do? Like, just because I have the capacity to make a decent income consistently for the rest of my life doesn't mean that I have to hang on to that. And that was a really hard thing to let go of. But I will tell you, my life since that point of letting go of that belief it's unrecognizable. My anxiety levels, unrecognizable from where they were. There's just been so much that has changed about the thoughts that I think about what I'm doing and what I'm thinking and feeling and believing. But our beliefs make up who we are, or who we see ourselves as, rather. They don't actually make up who we are. We just think that they do. So therefore they do. Right? It's this kind of confusing like web of like, well, but it's this and I mean, it makes up so much of our personality, and it's something that we've never, most of the beliefs that we have are something that we've never questioned. And a lot of times we think of beliefs as like religious beliefs, and a lot of people change their ideas about religion, right? But we don't think about, okay, what do I believe about money? What do I believe about love? What do I believe about like my place in the world? Like, a lot of us never are taught to actually challenge that. So are you believing the things that you want to believe? Is kind of what it all comes down to. Because if you're allowed to believe anything that you want, every single belief is 100% optional, no matter what sort of evidence you have. What do you want to believe? And even, do the beliefs that you have serve you? Is that a proper sentence? The beliefs that you have, are they serving you? I think it was, but anyway. But for example, stepping out into the world as an entrepreneur instead of a pharmacist, I have to have a very different set of beliefs about myself and what I can do, right? I have to believe that it's possible for me to make money in a way that I never did before, because I was so set up that, this is the way, and I'm going to keep using this as an example because it was such a big thing for me. But I had this belief that as a pharmacist, I can make this much money, maybe this much money if I do a job that I don't really want to do in, a part of the industry that I don't want to be a part of. So like, this is my max right now, here, done. I'm at it. And then like stepping out into the world as an entrepreneur, like, I have to believe that I can just make money come out of thin air, right? Seems like it sometimes. And it's not the beliefs that I had starting there was like, well, now I have to convince people that, I'm the right person to help them through whatever. And like, that was a belief that I held on to for so long. And once I started letting that go is when I started getting people actually coming to ask me for help, right? Now I don't believe that I need to convince anybody. I just need to put myself out there and show like, hey, it's possible to do this other thing and I can help you if you want. And people have started to come and people have started to show interest and interact with my posts on TikTok. And I've built up so many things that I never believed were possible a few years ago. And now I get to use all that experience to help change other people's beliefs, right? And that's like one of the greatest honors that I personally think that I will ever have experience with in my life. And even just if it ended tomorrow, I'm so happy with the amount of belief shifting that I have been able to help people through, right? And it doesn't have anything to do with convincing, right? That belief that I had. All right. Let's go back to my notes here. I want to make sure that I cover some things here. How you see the world is what you believe about the world. So how do you see the world? Do you look out at the world and see, oh my gosh, everything's broken? I did for a long time. I had this belief that everybody's doing it wrong. Clearly, I know a better way. They should be doing it. And then like letting go of that idea that I think that I know better than them how to live their life, right? Because when anybody believes that they know how to live my life better than me, they're absolutely wrong. They might have some ideas that I might take into consideration, but they don't know how to live my life better than me. So what makes me so much better than them to know how, like there's some stuff that I have had to dig through about with my beliefs about other people and how they are acting and moving about the world, right? And what it took in that aspect for me was truly believing everyone's doing the best that they possibly can. And whenever I found myself in judgment of other people, whenever I found myself like getting really frustrated or bitter at what other people were doing, I really just, it's sort of a noticing first and then a gentle nudge to come back to this is what you want to believe. And what I want to believe is everyone's doing the best that they possibly can. And I want to believe that there's good in the world. And with that belief, when I look out the window now, I can see people doing amazing things that I never saw before because I had a belief that everybody was doing really bad. A belief is a thought that we have without question. So it's just a thought that's on repeat. And I know I've said that already, but it often takes an outsider to be able to tell you that what you're thinking is a belief. Because you're so in it in your head that this is just fact. This is just sea line. This is just circumstance in my life. And then somebody else can come along and say, well, really? And sometimes that's all it takes to be like, oh, that's just a thought I'm having. Like, what the heck? Even if everyone in your family believes the same thing, even if everyone in your town believes the same thing, everybody in your country believes the same thing. That's probably not going to happen, but but like even if everybody believes the same thing, someone else can come along and say, well, that's not how it is over here in my part of the world. And then you're like, wait, what? How can you live like this? What I want to recommend for all of you is to question your beliefs that come up, and you'll start to notice them more and more. The more you start to observe what you're thinking, the more you start to like go in with curiosity. Just question all of your beliefs and then decide what you want to believe on purpose. Another belief that I used to have was I'm just an anxious person. That was an identity that I had. I wore it proudly. Should have had a badge. Like, I'm just anxious. I just worry. Got another hand raised. Yeah. And because I had repeated that thought over and over and over, I kept creating that reality for myself. If I believe that I don't post consistently on social media, I can find a lot of evidence for that. I can also find evidence for how I did keep showing up in my own way. And the work that I was doing instead helped me get to the point where I can consistently keep showing up. But it's really, again, goes back to noticing, what am I believing? And what do I want to believe instead? And these just come down to thoughts. And sometimes it can take a long time to really convince yourself that this is not just a thought, or that this is not a fact, that this is just a thought that I'm having. And sometimes it can happen in an instant. There can be some bit of information that just like drives a wedge down the middle of your belief, and it will never be the same again. And I don't have any specific examples of that. So if any of you have an example of something that was like earth shattering, I'm sure we've all had them. Maybe it was, I believe that this person is good, all good, nothing bad about them. And then you find some video on the internet gets leaked about some celebrity that you thought was amazing. And it's like, oh, that's not correct at all. And there's usually some truth like in the middle is where the truth actually lies. But your belief that this person always does this and always acts like this or whatever, and you have proof, and your brain is like, oh, well, never mind, I guess I was wrong. But then sometimes you have that belief, say about another person, that this is how they act, this is how they act. And then you see evidence to the contrary, and your brain doesn't want to believe it. Brain says that's fake. Somebody made that up just because they're jealous, and you defend whatever it is that you believed to the death, basically. So just be careful with your beliefs, with your belief system, with the thoughts that you have, because they look so much like fact until you start to examine them. And if you can make anything you want based on the thoughts that you have, what do you want to believe to get you there? There are no rules as to what you believe or what you don't believe. If you're starting a new job, or if you want to get a new job, first thing is you have to believe that you're capable of doing that. And that's another thing that for a long time I believed I couldn't ever get another job as anything other than a pharmacist. Giving yourself permission to take that step boldly off the path that you thought was so well laid out for you just because you're miserable. It's okay. Your beliefs will determine your ongoing results, your consistent results. So you get to decide what those results will be. And how do you get from here to where you want to be is literally changing your beliefs. So what do you want to believe about whatever it is? Because there can be beliefs about what you're saying, what you're doing, what you believe about yourself, what you're capable of. There can be, beliefs about spirituality and money and all of the things, right? But yeah, I want to believe that I'm good at my job. That's a good thing to want to believe, right? Can you find evidence? Dana, did you have something?
I was going to say that I want to believe that I am worth someone paying for my services.
Ooh, that's a big
But
one.
what I have to say is really important. I want to believe that. So
yeah,
that's what I want to say.
Yeah. So what's stopping you from believing that?
My brain.
Yeah. Do you want to go there?
Oh dear. We can go there. Let's do it. Let's go there.
All right. So what are you currently believing? What are you currently thinking that's bringing you the thought of, well, I guess, whatever. Yeah. Just answer the
Well,
question.
I make up an excuse in my head that the people that I want to help or that I can help, the
Mhm.
moms, have better things to spend their money on. Like, and I have this in my head that I don't know, it's just it's stuck there.
Yeah. So when you believe the thought, they have better things to spend their money on,
Mhm.
how does that make you feel?
Crappy.
Yeah. And what action do you take then?
Nothing. I do
Yeah.
nothing.
And then what result do you get?
I get nowhere.
Yeah. You get more proof, more evidence that they have better things to spend their money on.
Yes, which just lets me I believe it just that much more.
Right.
Is
Right.
it's a circle.
Yeah. And there's a lot of evidence that there are so many things that moms can spend money on.
Oh yeah.
So many things.
No, especially like dealing with like single moms. I'm like, oh, feel bad about it. Or like, so I make an excuse and I continue to live with that excuse.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So is that you deciding for them what they want to spend their money on?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I mean, when I say it out loud, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I cannot. My brain just doesn't want to stop though.
I get it. I get it.
So.
I went through a similar thing when I stepped out from behind the pharmacy counter where anybody could walk up for free and ask me questions.
Mhm.
Not that this is a uniquely pharmacist problem, but like I made money. People paid me money to do my job.
Yes.
And then everybody else could walk up for free and ask me questions, right?
Okay.
But then like, okay, how do I get them to come ask me questions and then pay me, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
It was right.
yeah.
So
What sort of belief do you think you would have to have in order to believe that you're worth spending money on? What sort of thought would generate that for you?
to think like I do, like when I know that I need to work with somebody or I want to help, that it's money is not going to be a problem. I'll figure
Mhm.
that out because my mental health is much more important. And it's really minimal in comparison to a lot of other things that it could be spending on. And at least like I'm getting something out of it for my own safety and my own safety almost, my own to keep my brain from completely going overboard.
Yeah. So, question for you. Are you
Yeah.
a mom?
Yes.
Have you spent money on coaching?
Yes.
Has it been a stretch for you at any point to do that?
Oh yes.
Have you found it to be worth it?
Yes.
Mm,
Absolutely.
okay. So you're already proving your theory wrong.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. And then, but then I think I think you already hit on this, but your belief isn't actually that moms have better things to spend their money on than coaching.
Right.
I think it might be connected to other coaches are better and I'm not worth it,
Yes.
at least in part. That's what
Oh,
I'm hearing.
I think that's a lot to do with it.
Right.
So self-worth
Yeah.
and trusting myself.
Oh, weird.
I know, so strange.
We've had some conversations about that.
Yes, we have. Just a few.
Yeah.
So that whole trust thing, the trust in myself is what I have to do, like what I have to say and how I can help people is really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
And I can say that over and over again. Now I just got to get myself to believe it.
Right. So so believing that right now is not accessible to you immediately from, I'm not worthy. What
Right.
do you think would be a good thought that would take you a step closer to that?
I can't jump right to I am worthy. So almost like some people might think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Kind of in between part.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good like endpoint for to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Not everybody is going to think it's worth the money for sure.
And
So
that's okay.
some people will think it's worth the money to invest in my coaching. Does that feel believable to you?
Sort of.
Okay. Then we need to add a couple extra words in there. What else could you add in? It could be like it might be possible that.
Well, it might be possible that I am worth people's time and money
Yeah. Why?
because I have a lot of good things to share.
Yeah.
And yes, thank you whoever typed that in. I am a good coach. Thank you. So still working through that, but
Not
I
that
can
it's
coach
easy.
other people once I can believe in it and work through that. Other people can believe in me.
Yeah. Are you feeling complete?
I'm feeling better.
Okay. Thank you
Sure.
for
Mhm.
coming on and being brave.
Thank you.
Mhm. But yeah, just even notice there, the only thing that's standing in your way is your belief. The only thing that's stopping you from putting yourself out there and meeting people and making offers for them is your belief. And that's great news because it's nobody else, right? You have the power to change it if you want to. And you don't have to. There's no rule that you have to change it. You can keep your story.
I don't want to keep that story though.
No.
I'm over that story. It's an old,
Yeah.
it's a very old story.
Right. Well, and sometimes we have to get so damn sick of our story that we're at a breaking point of like, I'm totally done with this.
Yeah, I'm ready to change the belief. So
Yeah. Because and this is for all of you, if you want to stay exactly where you are, then keep believing everything that you currently believe. If you want to get somewhere else in your life, then you have to be willing to look inside and see where you're being held back and work on that. And it's not like you have, there's a metaphor that's a little strange, but if you're digging a swimming pool in your backyard, you don't need to move all the boulders that are buried underneath the earth. You just need to move the boulders that are in the way of building the swimming pool. So if you want a little swimming pool and you're totally fine with that, and that's awesome for you, you probably don't need to care about the big boulder that's on the other side of the lawn. But if you want to keep expanding your swimming pool, if you want to keep adding on and add a jacuzzi and add all kinds of things, and the swimming pool is a metaphor for like everything you want to do with your life. You still don't have to dig it all up at once. It's just, all right now, this is the point where we're at. What's holding you back from doing what you want in this next step? And also, something that I have encountered recently is, I'm trying to remember where I heard it. Probably doesn't matter. But if you knew that you would reach your goal, whatever that is, and you were given, and the universe gave you a bulleted checklist of everything you had to go through to make that possible for you, most of us would say, hell no, I'm not doing that. Mm-mm. If I knew that I had to go through pharmacy school and get super stressed, thinking that I'm going to fail this exam, thinking like sleepless nights studying, all of this stuff, and then I'm going to absolutely crash and burn with anxiety in order to find my purpose in life, I'm out. I'm absolutely out. So that's, luckily, the universe only reveals the next couple of steps, maybe at most, or even just part of a step. Like, here, you got to do this first. You got to be brave enough to do this first, because you can't handle the rest of that until you go through this. Right. And I actually related that back to my human design chart too. The 3-line that I have, the 3-line is the experimenter, the trial and error, the failing at everything. And then finding what does work. Like I kind of related that back to my human design of, the 3-line is so good at convincing me that this is exactly the answer, because if I wasn't absolutely convinced that this was the answer for me, I wouldn't start doing it. And when I start doing it and I get more information, it's like, this isn't right anymore. We got to try this other thing. This is for sure the answer this time. But if my machine doesn't tell me, yeah, that's the one, we need to go there, then I'm not going to take that step to go closer. So I have started to shift my belief system around failing at things in my life, because I could 100% look at this whole pharmacy school thing as a huge failure in my life, right? Do I want to believe that, well, I'm quitting on everything that I put all my effort into? Is that the belief that I want to carry with me that will help me get to where I want to be, help me feel how I want to feel, or will that just bring guilt and shame and embarrassment? Right? Like, being willing to let go of the belief systems that you have spent your entire life building up is some of the most heartbreaking work, but some of the most worth it work that you'll ever experience, at least in my own experience. I'm just going to talk about me a lot because that's all I have. But, so many of our beliefs come from what we were taught by our parents. Most of us believe in some way, shape, or form what our parents taught us, and we're not willing to challenge that. Think about learning in elementary school and high school, middle school, whatever, all the schools, learning about history, American history, for example. How many of you as adults now have learned a couple of things that they left out in our history classes? Yeah, there's a lot missing in those pages, right? So think about beliefs as the same thing as taking a class like that. Like, these are the thoughts that I have been taught to think, just in a different format. It doesn't come from a book that I study and take a test on. It comes from mom and dad saying this and that and the other thing, and friends saying, oh, well, my mom said this, and I mean, anyone in your life brings their own set of beliefs, and then you start to believe what they believe if you hang around them long enough. There are so many spouses out there who went into a relationship totally, like, I don't know, normal's not the right word. I hate normal, but like, we'll call it stereotypically normal, like emotionally capable, right? And then they marry somebody that's self-identifies as an anxious wreck, right? Then they start to take on some of those things because, oh gosh, they're going to be anxious if this happens. And then that just causes more anxiety instead of, like, being willing to look at the beliefs that are brought in from the other people and examining them and saying, hey, you know what? I don't really want to believe this anymore. This isn't helpful for us. And then being willing to look at that, like, okay, what's causing this? looking at what's causing it and being willing to put it out on the table and be honest with yourself, because you will only ever get as far as you want to go by being honest with yourself. And as far as you'll get is how willing you are to face the truth of what you're thinking, of what you're feeling, of what you're doing. And sometimes it takes a lot of convincing. Sometimes you have to sit with it for long enough for it to become your emotional truth. Yeah, question everything that you believe. And none of this is bad news that we've been conditioned to believe things. That's what we're here to do. Some of the beliefs that we have are conscious and some are below the surface. So we have a lot of subconscious beliefs that are affecting your actions and affecting your emotions without you even knowing. So the more you're willing to take a look at the thoughts that you're having, the more you'll realize that, oh, this is really actually affecting how I'm showing up for myself. And it might be a subconscious belief that, if I succeed at this one piece, then I'm going to shine too bright and everybody's going to hate me. Don't show off. Don't get overconfident. Don't get arrogant, right? But if you let that go and you just show up in your true self and just allow everybody else to believe what they want to believe about you, because you hold your belief about yourself so firmly that it doesn't matter what they think. How does that change how you show up? Do you believe that you're worthy of taking up the space that you take in this lifetime? Do you believe you're worthy of, just like even looking at where you're living right now, the car you drive, the food you eat, they all come from beliefs that you have. I believe that I at one point, I believed that I could build this house that I'm in right now. If I had never thought, oh, I could build a house. I mean, I didn't physically build it. I hired some people to do the things, but but I had never even considered it for a long part of my life. I was just like, oh, you find a house and you move into it. But then I met somebody else who believed, oh, hey, I have an uncle as an architect who builds houses. We could build our own. It's like, what? Oh, wild. New belief entered, right? No belief of what's possible. And sometimes all it takes is a sentence from somebody else. And it's allowed to be that easy. It's allowed to be a momentary change that shifts the trajectory of your life. The belief that it has to be hard is something that's not serving us. Let's talk about believing even though you have no evidence, because I think a lot of us are trying to go down this path of, changing our lives to something that is not something we've experienced yet. Otherwise, we would have it, right? We have to believe that we can get somewhere we're not without any proof that we can do that. So do you want to believe it's not possible for me to do this? Or do you want to believe, hey, I think I can figure it out? I'm pretty certain I can figure out what to do. Even if you don't have a map, even if you don't have a GPS. Like, hey, I want to go to Aspen. I don't know. That's the first place that came to mind. If I don't have a GPS to get me there, I bet I could figure it out. It's a heck of a lot easier with a GPS. So I got to find somebody who believes that they can help me find a GPS, maybe. Or I can say, all right, well, for me, it's west. So I'm just going to go west and maybe I'll stop at a gas station and say, okay, which road do I need to take to get closer? There's 1,000 different ways to get there. And the destination can look the same, but your journey is going to be unique because we're coming from different parts of the country if we're all going to Aspen, right? So what's your journey look like? What do you want it to look like? Do you want it to be easy? Do you want to believe that it's easy to achieve the things that you want? Do you want to believe that it is going to take some work? Both might be true. But holding on to the belief that it has to be hard doesn't serve you, even if it is true. So how do you find evidence that it's easy? How do you find evidence that changing your beliefs is easy? Start looking. What things have I been able to change my mind about so easily that it was comical? Again, I don't have any examples. I maybe should have thought about that before, but but yeah. Do you believe, and I also have like a little exercise, I guess, that questions to answer for yourself. So what do you believe about yourself that you were taught as a child? What do you believe your intelligence level is? Because that's a big one that kids are taught. Oh, you're so smart. Oh, you're so talented. As if those were innate traits that we have. I was told I was smart my whole life, so I believed it. There are friends who are not told that, and they still don't believe it, even though I see how smart they are. Doesn't matter what I think. What do you believe about who you can depend on? Can you depend on yourself? Has anyone told you that it's possible to just depend on yourself? Not that you have to do everything alone, but so many of us are taught not to depend on ourselves because we need to be there for everybody else. And what we want doesn't matter. And that we need, well, and also like a belief that self-criticism is the way to motivate yourself. It's temporary. You can temporarily get something done, but it's not going to continue to work if you shame and blame. And like, think about if you said the words out loud to a child, would they want to continue doing the thing, or would they do it out of spite once and then hate you forever? Right? Do you believe that you're normal, or do you believe that you're weird? Do you believe that there's a certain amount of emotion that you're allowed to feel? I'm not allowed to feel sad or mad. I just have to be good so everybody else around me is happy. Those are beliefs that we have, people-pleasing tendencies. But yeah, look at all of the beliefs that you have, and then also look at the beliefs that you want to have. And that's work worth doing, is figuring out how to actually start believing those things. And we can do it in bridge thoughts like we did with Dana earlier about, okay, well, you might not be able to jump to I'm worthy of being paid right now. But what's something that will get you closer? What's a step that you can see that will get you closer to believing it? And a lot of times changing our beliefs is uncomfortable. But is it a discomfort that gets you closer to being who you want to be? Or is it a familiar discomfort that keeps you stuck right where you are? Because brain wants familiarity above everything else. We know that things we've been through are survivable. New things, scary. Scary. Not safe. Anything unfamiliar is not safe until you're willing to take a look at your brain and say, hey, you know what? It might be scary, but I'm going to try it because I'm going to be uncomfortable either way. If I stay here exactly where I am, I'm going to be uncomfortable. But I know that I'll be uncomfortable and stay that way for forever. Or I can give myself a chance of being uncomfortable with this new thing and changing my life. So which version is going to get you to where you want to be? Even if you don't have a clear endpoint, even if you have no idea. And that's something that I have gotten very comfortable with. And I just had a conversation with my husband the other day about it. Like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where the endpoint is. I just know that I'm on the right step. Even if I don't think I am, what good is it to believe that I'm not on the right step? What good is it to believe that I should have done anything differently in my life? And I know I've heard this and it used to irritate me, but like, what if everything you've done has gotten you where you are for a reason? And what's your reason? And for me, I've recently been discovering that all my self-criticism about not consistently posting on social media, like, hey, what if I was supposed to do that? What if that was a check mark on the list of things that I needed to do in order to believe? Kind of shifted it for me. And that was something that I realized earlier today when I got coaching. Like, hey, that wasn't working. And I feel something like I don't know how else to explain it, but like I can feel something somewhere in my like stomach area that feels different. Something has shifted and it's just like starting to grow. And eventually it'll reach my brain and I'll actually do something about it. But but I have had to sit with this for so long to realize that it is a choice that I'm making. Like to realize on a deeper level than I ever have before that it's a choice that I'm making. And they're like, for those of you, I mean, we've all done a little bit of work on this, but as you keep going, and I've heard this from coaches that are far more advanced than I am in the coaching world, that each level you go, every time you keep pushing yourself, there's going to be a deeper level of understanding that's required in order to make that happen. Do I believe that someday I will make $1 million in a year? Yeah, kind of. Do I believe it'll happen next year? No. So is it going to happen next year? Probably not. Odds are not good. Am I okay with that right now? Yeah, because I'm not ready to believe that I can make $1 million in a year. And I want to make sure that I do it in a sustainable way. That's not going to leave me in burnout and hate my life, right? I don't want to work 100 hours a week. I'm going to find a way to do it with ease. The belief that it has to be hard does not serve me in this case. The belief that I have to go through grueling hour after hour does not serve me. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to have hours that are grueling and that I'm not going to have resistance to doing things that I want to do. It's just that, you know what? The fact is, I do want to do this right now. And here's 10 reasons why. And having those whys, having different versions of why to serve you in different settings. Like, there's an example that I heard someone being coached on of, reasons for not overeating. This person was obviously trying to lose some weight. And okay, here's what I want to do, but I keep overeating. All right, well, what do you want to believe in the morning when you're having breakfast to not overeat? Like, what's the belief that drives you there? And maybe it's, oh, my son's here and I want to show him that, I can have that it's possible to have control over food and you don't have to stuff your face. So son's there watching, right? Maybe that's your why. And then when you're at work, my why is I don't want to feel bloated for the rest of the afternoon. Very different reason, still motivating. And then in the evening, maybe it's when I come home from work, I don't need to snack because I'm using that to not feel emotions. And I want to be able to feel emotions instead of covering it up with dopamine from food, right? Maybe that's a compelling reason for somebody when they come home is I want to actually feel what I'm feeling instead of covering it up. Very different thing than son's watching. But you need different reasons throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout your life. And it can be something as topical as I want to look great in a swimsuit. Not that you can't look great, but maybe it's I want to look how I want to look in a swimsuit. And maybe that's a good enough reason for you. Why not? If that's what you want, why not? Give yourself permission to want whatever you want. Give yourself permission to dream about what you want. And then give yourself permission to believe that you can take steps that'll get you closer to that every day. Why don't we just take another minute to close out and recenter before we head back out into our regular lives? So close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let it go. All right. Take care of yourselves. Keep fighting the good fight. Love you all. Thank you for taking the time to listen in today. Many of you will be able to take the ideas that you've heard and apply them in your daily life, and that's really all you need. That's amazing. But for those of you who could use a little one-on-one help with how to make these things actually work for you in your real life, please reach out. The link to schedule a consult with me is in the show notes. You don't have to do this alone. See you soon.